My sister would tell you all these stories of me stealing her Barbie cars and strapping them with fireworks, and blowing them up, and recording it on videotape so I could try to figure out how to do what they did, the miniatures. It never worked, but it was fun. I had made three little Maze Runner movies, with Weta actually, and did some cool visual effects work on that, but nothing on the scale of this, and especially this idea of the motion capture thing, and just that idea of, oh yeah, most of your characters on screen that you have to identify with are going to be all CG. You know what I mean? Learning all that stuff was challenging and frustrating, but also incredibly rewarding. It's like a superpower now, being able to like, oh, let's take that take, and I'm going to move it over here to this shot. To be able to have that and wield that, is pretty intoxicating. And so I'm really dreading going back to a normal live action movie where I can't have those powers.
I learned that this guy is a pretty fantastic creative partner to go into the trenches with. The big thing I took away throughout this process was learning to be more of a contributor to the process and not just sit back and go, what would you like us to do? It was more like, here's what we could do.
It's like, I don't care where the good ideas come from. It's like, we're all kind of in this stew together, let's all figure out how to make something great, and we'll take any great idea from anyone, and even VFX.
Apes will learn, I will learn, and I will conquer.
We had on this one, a dozen new hero characters that we had to, first of all, design, build, but then also had to make talk, because they're all speaking roles in the movie. And that necessitated finding a greater efficiency, a better way to actually do the facial animation on this stuff, because a lot of the previous work we had done on the movies, those apes are largely using sign language for communication. But this was all about, yap, 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 yap,
Yeah.
yap.
And if you're off at all on
Yeah.
those lip things, immediately,
Yeah.
so you have to be just so precise on that.
Much to learn, much to teach.
You have multiple artists working on the same character, you can quickly wind up with the character feeling different a little bit, from shot to shot to shot. And so for this one, we actually, the information that came from the stereo facial cameras that the actors were wearing on their heads fed into a deep learning based facial solver, which kind of set a consistent baseline for all of the animators. And the more we fed into it, the more it learned the relationships between what the actor's face was doing and what the ape character, the puppet that they were ultimately going to be driving. Those relationships are not linear, and they're incredibly complex. And so being able to leverage a machine learning approach on that actually gave the facial animators time to really focus on doing all the subtle nuance that the actors were giving us every day, and not need to suddenly balloon that department up to be able to hit the quantity of work, because there's more dialogue spoken in this movie than the three previous films combined.
When things can kind of become over storyboarded, over prevised, where it just feels like you're just kind of paint by numbers. Here's this shot and here's this shot. It's you rob something out of it, that the soul goes away. You know what I mean? Yeah. So we really talked a lot about that. Like, how can we come up with methods where we can kind of be out there despite this incredible kind of technological process that's over top of making these movies. I think we were able to pretty much, do what we wanted to do, which is to kind of like make it feel real.
There were certainly cases where we were caught on the back foot because, this guy changed his mind about something, like, oh, we'll be over here instead. But there were still storyboards. Like, there was still kind of at least a skeleton of what the
and we previs really
Yeah.
technical stuff.
Yeah.
People need to figure out stuff. We had a great team for that, but there's something about going on set and letting the actors come out there for the first time, and the DP comes out there, and all the sets dressed now, and we all just kind of take it in and get inspired, and like, ooh, what if we did it over here instead? Like, man, that's where movie magic happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And action.
Tell me, what do you see? Kingdom for apes.
This one scene when May's in the grass, right? We had months previously decided on the location. We were going to plant this grass, and we're going to plant it so we can control it and grow all the grass we need. And we go out to the location, basically a day before the break, and it's grown like 6 inches. And I'm like, okay, I can't exactly do my grass scene in here. What are we gonna do? I don't think it's gonna grow in 2 weeks, And so we're fertilizing it. We can bring in some grass, and so we did this weird little hybrid thing where we kind of imported in some grass for a couple quick little shots. But then we also had to go about a mile up the road. We found this field of wild, overgrown grass. The problem was there's no forest around, which is where all the other shots had. And so Erik had to figure out how to put all the forest into those shots with the grass, if not outright replace all the grass. So that's the kind of thing that no one would ever know if they saw this movie. But it's one of the cases where the VFX came in to save us, from a production issue, because we couldn't pull it off.
Apes hunt humans. That is wrong.
There is an extra Blu-ray disc that is just the entire movie in its raw form, in its dailies of what we shot. And then on top of it, you see in the one frame, the actual final image too. So you can watch the movie and really look at together, with your own eyes. You can be your own editor. You can decide when to see, like, oh wow, there's the actor doing his thing, and it looks exactly like the ape doing his thing. Or you can see, like, oh, they actually shot this on a parking lot. This actually wasn't on a riverbank. Or, oh, this is all CG when they're climbing on top of a mountain. You know what I mean?
20-year-old me in art school would have just absolutely been mind-blowing.
Me too. That's why I wanted to put it out. It's incredibly informative on like the amount of work that goes into these things.
Tell me, what do you see?
Stolen clans.
Certainly times where practical effects made the sequence possible, the river in particular, because there we have a scene that needs our human actor to be in the water, struggling against a net and thrashing around in a strong current, but then also to have an ape character jump in there with her and help her out. To be able to try and stage that in a mocap stage or to try and do it dry for wet, like, never would have worked. That was going to have to be a really great partnership between special effects and visual effects.
Yeah, despite that whole scene taking place on a parking lot. You know what I mean? Yeah. Overall, the whole movie we did that way for the most part. There's about 30 minutes of like full CG stuff in there, but almost everything in there has some anchor into reality.
A beautiful bird.
Eagle's son. My father's bird. He follows to taunt me.
This bird follows you too?
We raise eagles, my clan. Sing to them.
It's fun to be a part of something that has so much expectations around it.
You maniacs! You blew it up!
Grandfathers grew up watching the movie, and then now their kids are going to go watch this movie for the first time. So that multi-generational kind of thing was really kind of exciting to be a part of, and try to find that sweet spot that kind of fits both kind of tastes.
I've heard from a lot of people that this film and its predecessors, like it seems to be a favorite for guys to go to with their dads.
Interesting.
As a thing that they can both, enjoy at the cinema.
Yeah, that's cool. If we do our job right in these movies, you're not paying attention to the technology. You're not paying attention to the VFX. Hopefully it just glides right over you and you just kind of believe it all. And so that's kind of like the double-edged sword of this thing. You don't really appreciate what goes into it to make these things feel so authentic, and kind of just we happen to look at the camera over there and found a talking ape. You know what I mean?
Together, you will die.
No, together, strong.